All right, man. So tell me when and where you were born.
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana on April the 1st, 1955. My parents, my mom and my dad had me, and I had a twin sister that didn't make it. So I've been here for the past, will to be 66 years in April. And wow, I really enjoyed the journey that I'm on. It's still ongoing, but so far I've enjoyed a lot of it.
So tell me about your parents. Who were your parents?
My dad's name was Thomas Calvin Rhodes Sr., and my mom's name is Myrtle Pierre Rhodes.
All right. All right. And so tell me about your siblings. How many siblings did you have?
It was 9. I have 9 siblings. I have 6 brothers, well, 5 brothers and 4 sisters. And it completes 10 of us, and 2 out of the 10 are no longer with us. So there's 8 of us still left.
Okay. So tell me about growing up, like early years.
From earliest I can remember, we were like 3, 4 years old. I can remember having to wear corrected shoes, you know, because my knees were kind of like turned. So I walked funny, so they had to put corrected shoes on me. Maybe about a year, if that long. I walked out of that. I can remember kindergarten, coming home one Tuesday about 11 in the morning, because we didn't stay long when you were, you know, I was like 5 or 6. And we were living in a desired housing projects at the time. And I went outside, sat on the porch with another young lady. We were both in kindergarten together. So we were just, our parents let us sit out on the porch. And a guy threw a piece of glass from across the street and hit me and cut me in the eye. And I went inside hanging on my mom to try to get her attention to see that I was bleeding. And when she saw that I was bleeding, she started howling and screaming, and they rushed me to the hospital. It's like, try to explain to them what happened. I remember that. I remember my dad having a green Buick.
A Buick? Yeah.
A Buick. It could have been a 55, 56 or something like that. But you know, I was like 5, 6 years old. So my dad used to slam a rope, a big old rope in the back of the trunk, and would pull the kids down the street with skates. Everybody who had skates could hang on to the rope, and he would drive them around the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And I was too young to skate. But all my life, that's all I wanted to do was get the opportunity to get on that rope, man, you know, and ride down the street like everybody else. Unfortunately, I never got there. We moved out of the projects to St. Claude Street, where I learned to skate. I could have been 7. I had on a pair of brand new Levi jeans with a corduroy shirt and my blue rag. It was Christmas, and I got a pair of skates. And my dad said that if I put them on, I had to learn how to skate. 7 years old, you know, I ain't scared of nothing, so we gonna do this. And I can remember my oldest sister took me out, teach me how to skate. Because my oldest sister and my oldest brother and the third oldest child, Nate, all of them knew how to skate.
So to be clear, we're talking about Uncle Thomas,
Uncle Thomas,
Patricia.
Auntie Patricia, and Uncle Nate.
Okay.
They knew how to skate. So they're gonna teach me. So Thomas and Nate got frustrated with me because I wasn't getting it. And Patricia decided, I got him, I'm gonna teach him. And she taught me. She taught me how to skate. Matter of fact, she just didn't teach me how to skate. I was 7 years old. She taught me how to skate forward. She taught me how to skate backwards. She taught me how to skate sideways. Wow. Then she taught me how to do it to music. Because she had a little transistor radio. And when the music came on, she started skating, and I just followed behind her. We would skate all evening. And when I got inside, my dad said, Jesus, boy, look at your clothes. Well, I fell down. I fell down. Concretia had her way with me. Tore up that shirt and them pants. I was bleeding, but I didn't care. And I wanted to learn how to skate, and I did. And that was an experience.
Tell me about, let's talk about your grandparents. Tell me about your grandparents. What do you remember about your grandparents?
Well, I remember more about my mom's parents than my dad. By the time I came along, both my dad's parents had already passed away. Uh, and I think only the oldest siblings got to see them. But my mom's parents, we all got to see, everybody got to see my mom's parents. You know, all the children, all the grandchildren. And it was always exciting to go by my grandmother because, you know, there was bread pudding in the oven. You could smell it when you hit the door. And they were living uptown in New Orleans, so houses were close together, so you could smell the cooking down the street. And I remember as a child, just being young with my grandparents. My grandpa was always, he was a jokester. He always liked to play jokes on us and stuff. And so every time we go by his house, we would be looking for the joke because we know he's coming with something. You know, it's just where it's at. And I can remember this one time, me and my brother Larry, who has passed away, we were by my grandpa, and he was saying, boy, y'all see those cherries over there in the tree? Well, go ahead and get y'all a handful of those cherries and eat those cherries. Well, we know being children and we ignorant, so we didn't know what they were. But my grandfather said it was cherries, and so that's what they were. And they were cherries. They just were cherry peppers. And after you got a handful and you got a mouthful, you decide and discover why in the world would this guy, why would he do that? And I can remember that so vividly because as I grew up, I learned those traits. And I learned how to do stuff like that. I mean, you know, it was like my grandpa had something going on there, you know, and it was like a practical joker. My grandmother was the stern one. She was always about discipline and always about you doing the right thing. And at the time when I didn't understand it nor realize it, she was actually preparing us for the future. And just in the things she said and how she said it, you know, you always got to be first. You know, you always got to lead. And I used to always take those sayings that she would just say that stuff, and I used to always wonder, why she keeps saying that? Why she's drilling this, what you got to do in your head. And as I grew up and started realizing as a young man, a lot of that stuff started coming back, and I started saying, hey, you know, I could do this. You know, Grandma say I could do it. You know, Grandma say lead. Grandma say be first. You know, all the things that my grandmother said, and watching my grandmother say that to us, my mom and dad had a whole nother philosophy. You know, and my mom was even tempered. You know, she was like, you're gonna get it. And then there were times when she was just, I'll just beat it in your head. And we would laugh because when she said she'd beat it in your head, we would always try to figure out, how's that going to work? Because there are no openings, you know, for her to make it go in here, you know. And then as we grew and got older, we started understanding what that meant, you know, beat it in your head. And we learned those lessons. And they taught good. They did good with what they did.
Okay. I remember you saying one saying your grandmother used to always say, like, every tub has to stand on its own bottom.
Got to stand on its own bottom, man. And those old sayings, and I now, you know, at the age of it now, I laugh because I can remember my grandma saying that stuff when tragedy had happened. When things happened that wasn't supposed to happen, she would always say stuff like that. And I used to be like, either she just cold or she don't know. And then as I grew and got older, I started realizing she wasn't cool at all. She was literally just telling you the truth. and so, you know, but when you think, as I think back about my grandparents, especially my mom's mom and dad, because those were the only ones that I got to interact with, they became so much a part of who I am growing up as a young man till when I met Mr. Brown. It just blew me away that I could actually meet another person like my grandparents who was a grandpa, you know, and he was.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get into that. So tell me about growing up. I mean, 10 siblings. All right, there's gotta be some adventures there. So tell me about your siblings and kind of name them all and.
Yeah, I'll start from the bottom and work my way up.
Okay.
And wait, there's my baby sister Geraldine, who's no longer with us, and her twin brother Gerald, who is with us. Then there's my brother John and his twin John. And then there's my brother Larry, who's passed away. Then there's me, of course. And then there's my sister Joanne, and then my brother Nathan, and my sister Patricia, and my oldest brother Thomas.
Okay.
Now, that's the whole clan, 10 of us. It was fun growing up with 10 siblings. And I say that because I really didn't have friends till I was like 18, 19 years old. We always had each other. You know, it was always enough for us in the house. 10 of us, we could have a party. You know, and so we did a lot of stuff we did in house. Play Monopoly and bingo and card games, checkers, chess. You know, any type of board game. You know, we always had enough for us to go around so we could all play. So my mom made sure we had stuff like Life and Monopoly and Scrabble. You know, I mean, I'm a Scrabble player. I've been playing Scrabble as long as I can remember. You know, and so, but it's those type of things. And as we got older and started venturing out, it was first, my oldest brother was the first one that actually was able to venture out. Because he was the first one that could actually go to a party outside our house, and none of us wasn't going with him. And that was dangerous because we was like, who are you going to dance with? He always dance with us. Who are you going to dance with out there? How you going to go to a party without us? There ain't no party. That's what that is. And not knowing that he was out there having himself a ball. and so it was always a lot of interaction inside the house, you know, with each other. And then there were, of course, discipline rules that we had to live by. You know, Thomas and Patricia were the oldest two, and everybody else was under them. And so you ain't had no say-so in the matter. My oldest brother could pass by me on the street, tell me to go home. I got to go home. Everybody would say, why you listening to him? And he ain't the one I'm scared of. He ain't made the rules. There's another person who gonna really enforce what he's saying. It ain't him.
Right.
You know, so we had to deal with that growing up. It was fun. And then there are a lot of times when we would look, because we grew up poor. You know, there was, you know, my dad left when I was 9, and so we had to deal with that. You know, and like you were saying to me, you know, all of those things that's been nestled away and tucked away and hidden that people don't know about. You know, the struggles that we went through. You know, and having to deal with all of that stuff. You know, personal stuff where people would call you names and you had to do like my mom say, you know, like let it roll off your back like the water roll off a duck back. I didn't get that lesson till I was in my 20s. Before that, it was knuckle up, partner. That what you said? and I can remember my mom whooping me for fighting, because we were always taught by my dad to defend ourselves, and my mom was like, she wasn't having that. You know, especially amongst each other. But outside the house, it was a different story. You know, my mom had married a man whose last name was Rhodes, and what came with that was one fight, all fight. My dad believed in one for all for one. It's 10 of y'all. Jump on him. But ain't but one of them, Dad. Jump on it, all y'all. And if you didn't fight, you got a whooping.
So tell me about that. There was a story you used to tell me about y'all fighting. I think it was on the bus.
Yeah, we was living on St. Clair Street at the time. We were always going to the same school. We were bused from St. Clair to Lockett. And one evening we were coming home and my oldest brother and sister got into a fight with some kids in the back of the bus. And me and my sister Joanne were sitting in the front of the bus, and we didn't think to go back and help them because they looked like they was handling it. And my dad whooped all us. I mean, he whooped everybody who didn't fight. He didn't whoop the people who fought in the fight. He whooped us who didn't fight, because he taught us the rule: one, all for one for all. You know, one fight, all fight. And of course, I knew growing up that I couldn't instill that in my children. You know, but my children understood. You know, when I was teaching them, I put it like that. There were times when we would have family fights in the house when my parents were gone, and Patricia and Thomas was like ding ding. They were running. It was like Don King of the house, and we would have knuckle fights. Man, I'm talking about just go at it. And my mom and would come home and see one kid got beat up. You know, they'd be like, "What happened to him?" Oh, well, we was playing boxing, and my dad was like, "No, y'all wasn't." Tell me y'all wasn't playing boxing, because my dad had bought us boxing gloves. They were the big old gloves. He said, what did you let the little ones, he's talking to the oldest two. You mean tell me y'all let the little two put these gloves on and box? They said, well, yeah, they could do it. You know, Larry and Eric, they didn't mind. It was like, they were boxing. They were the champs. And we would fight for candy, like Tootsie Rolls and Kits, cookies. You know, they put a prize. It was a prize. Winner get 3 cookies, 2 Tootsie Rolls, a bubble gum.
Oh,
man, I'm gonna kill him. Man, I'm gonna kill him for that candy. And my parents were like, so what did y'all do? And we would all be happy. We had to fight. Then we had the dance contest. Then we sat down and watched Disney World when it came on. Wonderful World Disney. You know, something I've been watching. I've been watching since I was a child. Ain't nothing new about Disney. Disney been doing this. That mouse been doing stuff for years. But anyway, and so in those type situations, there were always the boy stuff and the girl stuff, especially with my parents. You know, the girls had it like they was on this street called Easy. And we the guys, we didn't like that. We didn't like the fact that they didn't get whooped like we got whooped. They didn't, you know, it was like, what's so special about them that you can't hit them like you hit us? And we was like, you know, my dad said you're going to whoop somebody. We want to see who it was. And whenever it was one of the girls, you could see all the boys was lined up looking. We were staring like in amazement. He could whoop her. Whoop her. She needed. Whoop her. And he would hit her 2-3 times and she'd start crying. And he'd hit her 2-3 more times, satisfy us. You know, because like, no, she got 6 licks as opposed to what the boys get always twice as much. You know, and the boys it was rough for us. Because if my dad came home from work and my mom told him, yeah, them boys didn't do this and didn't do that. And you knew not to just break out in the hallway walking toward him like you crazy. You know, because that shoe coming, that 13, you could hear it coming down, my little rings on the shoe, you could hear them whistling. Ooh, till it hit its mark. You know, and if your back turned and it hit you, boom, you just got hit. We would all be in the bedroom and somebody would get hit and we would all be like, wait for it, here it comes. And then you'll hear that, and it was like the alarm went off. I remember those days. I remember a lot of fun we had. You know, in like I said, we were in-house, so everything was done in-house. And I remember the first time somebody from the outside world came in our house. And we was like, who let them in? Because, you know, when you're little, you know, you don't have no say-so. Right. Who that is at the door? Then when they came inside the house, we was like, ooh, Mama and Daddy gonna kill you because you let somebody in the house. And Thomas was like, no, it's okay. I already talked to Mom and Daddy, and they say, you know, I could bring somebody over. What you mean bring somebody over? They ain't got no room for him in here. Because that's our thinking, you know, because we're young. And as you grew up, you learn, you know, we started learning. My oldest brother got friends. And we was like, we losing him.
Outside, yeah. Yeah,
somebody outside, you know, taking him away. And I remember we would get angry about that. Because we would come home in the evening and he wasn't never home. And we used to be like, this ain't working. Where's Thomas? And Mama said, he playing with his friends. That's not fair. And she used to be like, what you mean? It's not fair. How he get to have friends? Well, he's older. Never understood that. Didn't know what that older, every time they said he was older, we got mad. Because he still looked the same to me. He didn't get no older. And so as you grow up, you learn. But there were times when our family was actually being led by my oldest brother. Because my mom was too busy doing mom stuff. So Thomas was responsible for raising us, literally. Right. And a lot of times people, even now today, you know, I talk with his sons, with Thomas' sons. And my youngest nephew, Dominic, he always telling me, he said, man, every time I talk with you, he said, all I can see is my daddy. And I'm like, man, your daddy raised me. What you talking about? Mm-hmm. And then he was telling me the other day, he said, you know what, I'm really beginning to realize what you mean when you say my daddy raised you. Yeah, he did. him and Patricia raised us. My mom was working.
All right, so let's get into that. Let's talk about your dad leaving.
All right, 9 years old, woke up one morning, and we all woke up to this surprise that Daddy's not coming home. And for a while, nobody said anything, and everybody was standing there like in awe. What you mean? He's not coming home. Well, he leaving us. And for us, that was like, my mom playing, my mama joking. No, she's this ain't this. Yeah. But then the lights went off. And then the water went off. And then we started realizing he's not coming back. And what are we gonna do? And how my mama gonna handle this? What's gonna be her? No, this ain't real. This can't be real. And lo and behold, my oldest brother, my oldest sister, and the third oldest born child, Nathan, decided that they were all gonna drop out of school and go get jobs because we needed the money. And like I said, at 9 years old, you don't understand that. You trying to wrap around your head the fact that he ain't coming back.
Right.
You know, and the lights going off and ain't no water and there's a shortage of food.
Right.
and this is not how this is supposed. I don't understand this. But to the rescue comes my grandparents, my aunts. My mom only had one brother, so my uncle. They all pitched in.
Uncle brother, huh?
Uncle brother.
Yeah.
They all pitched in and helped my mom get on her feet and help us survive. I think the hardest thing was my dad left without saying goodbye. And it was like, he could have at least just been up front and just come and say, hey, I ain't coming back. Y'all on your own. But we laugh now and we joke, but there's still great anger, pain, and all that stuff that still exists that hasn't been dealt with. And we even don't even care to deal with it. You know, some of us are just numb to it. You know, it never happened, don't exist, I'm grown, I'm old, leave that alone, don't worry about that. Those type of situations. But I've experienced in my life that what the enemy meant for no good, God turned it for good. And the way God turned it was to illustrate and show us and teach us that he's always there even when we don't know it. Because I watched my mother, I'm 9 years old, and I watched my mother get on her knees and pray and talk to an invisible God. I didn't even know his name, really didn't care. But I started understanding that this God, who I couldn't see, had actually answered my mother's prayers. Because all she ever prayed and all I ever heard her say to this invisible God that I didn't know and couldn't see was, help me raise my baby. God did a good job. Never went to jail. My mom had 10 children. None of us never went to jail. Never got any type of trouble. None of that. And we learned to support each other, you know, through the tough times when there was nothing. You know, I can remember my mom looking at us and saying, you know, God's gonna make a way. And me and my brother Larry would look at God and say, well, what you waiting on? Not knowing and not understanding that this God that we were actually talking to was actually there. You know, and we started realizing that I did at an early age that God will work it out for you in spite of you. And my mom made sure that we understood that there was a God who sits high You look low. She was the first one I heard say that. You know, God sat high and he looked low. And I kept asking her, what he looking for? She said, baby, he could see everything. And her literally saying to me was that this invisible God who can see everything has made a covenant with her that he's going to see to it that her 10 children survive. And that's a blessing. Yeah. And that's just God in plain English. You know, it was tough. Those years were tough. It's tough growing up without a father. I wouldn't lie to nobody and say it's the best of situations. It's not, because you miss a lot of discipline. You miss a lot of how to properly grow up and be raised by adults who love you and understands that there are a lot of things you as a young person not going to understand and have to run interference for you so you get where you need to get. And I know with you all, what I and your mama always tried to do was to teach y'all and show y'all that you could think for yourself and that you never abandon family, you know, your siblings. I grew up with an attitude about never leaving my children. Never. That's unheard of. You know, me and my brothers have decided that is not how we going out. That is not how we gonna live. We're gonna marry, and we're gonna stay married, and we're gonna raise our children. And we're gonna get old, and we're gonna do this. There are a lot of things can make you walk the way you walk and talk the way you talk. I mean, man, I grew up all my life poor, but you couldn't tell it. You know, my mom and my oldest brother and my dad for the first 9 years established dignity. You a Rhodes, that means something. You know, you ain't just know anything. You know, if you ain't got it, work for it. You know, go get it. But at the same time, don't let nobody tell you ain't nothing. Oh, you something. You know, you can prove to people who you are just by how you live. Do the right thing. Go get you a job. Keep you some money in your pocket. Walk with your head high. Yeah, you ain't this and you ain't that, but you ain't that. And know you're something and know you're somebody and love yourself for it. And my parents, even though they divorced, separated, lived their life, both have passed away and gone on, I still look at those two people and I still thank God every day for them too. Them two knuckleheads made me. You know, I ain't mad with nobody.
Okay, so tell me about school life. Growing up. So elementary school.
Elementary school, I had it tough. I was a prankster, knucklehead. I could do my work, I could get it done, but I always wanted to have opportunity and time to clown around. I've always been a class clown all my life. I've always seen stuff funny. It's just, I'm sorry, that's who I am. You know, I love me for me. You know, don't get me wrong. You know, I think I'm a good person, you know, just in general. But a lot of people don't really know me. You know, a lot of people don't really know how goofy and crazy I am. You know, there's some people come along every now and then and can pick you right out the pot like everybody else. And I give Tracy credit for that. Because she before you would look at me and was honest enough to look at me and tell me, Dad, you're goofy. And so...
So what elementary school did you go to? Where did you go to school?
Elementary school. Moulton, Lockett, all those in the Ninth Ward area. You would have the high school, and you would have the middle class school, and you have the kindergarten. At one time, all of us was at the same school from 1 to 12. Everybody was at the same school. So it was like I went to Lockett. I remember Lockett and Moulton in that area where we lived. When we moved on the West Bank, I went to Westwego. I went to Norton Street School, Westwego Elementary, and Worley.
Okay.
And then
I think Worley's still there.
Yeah, Worley's still there. Westwego Elementary's still there too.
Okay.
Yeah, but Norton's not. They knocked that down and gave us a park to play in.
What about middle school, junior high?
Worley. Those were the good years. I was in the band, marching in the band, and having attitudes because they wouldn't let me play ball. But so I joined the band and I started playing the bass drum in the band in middle school, and from there to high school I went to West Jeff and got in the band. You know, we tried off with the football team. The show fest was too big. I don't think I weighed 125 pounds, but I was really actually going out for the team because that's what we did. We played ball. And the coaches was like, you too small. And I was like, no, I'm not too small. And the coach was like, man, I got people who can run over you. No, they can't. And I remember, you know, being challenged by guys like Dickie Mathern. You know, he was like 6'4", 230 pounds. Rhodes, I'm gonna run over you. No, you're not. You know, make you look stupid. And he come at me full speed ahead, you know, big. I get that. But see, I was quick. So when he come, I just waited for him. When he got close enough, and when he ducked down, I just stepped sideways and just threw him and let him keep going. He kept going. He rolling. Coach told him, get up. Little man making you look bad. But yeah, those are things that happen. I can remember being at West Jeff High School. The band wasn't worth 25 cents. It was a whole bunch of nickels. And we would be playing against a school like Landry or Clark. They would come to West Jeff Stadium with their little band and they'd tear the place down. And all we could do was get mad. You know, because we ain't had nothing to match them with, you know. So from there, I got out of high school, and being on the West Bank, there was just work everywhere. So I left high school. Matter of fact, I didn't graduate high school. I ended up getting a GED and went on to welding school, learned how to weld, and took a job at Avondale Shipyard at 18 years old. Mm-hmm. Worked at Avondale for 7 years, made good money, you know, spent it all. Spent it all. When I look back over that time, you know, all the money I spent on crazy stuff, you know, me and the guys going out, you know, all the good stuff. Yeah. Stuff young people do, you know, not realizing and understanding. But those years were good. And then it came the college years. I actually got an opportunity to go to college at Delgado, and I was excited because I was just glad to get past the high school stage. But now I'm in college, and I'm in college taking occupational safety and health, and I'm enjoying that. You know, that's one of the perks of being on the West Bank, being able to go to school for occupational safety and health because of the workload that was in the parish. But when the work dried up, all that went away. The high school years, the college years, all those years was good, and then rolling on to the time when getting close to the stages of everybody want to settle down.
Mm-hmm. So before we get to that, let's talk about, so you went to school in a unique time period in America.
Yes.
Right? So you were in school in the 50s, in the 60s.
Yes.
So you dealt with busing, you dealt with integration, you dealt with...
Yes, I dealt with the whole 9 yards.
So talk to me a little bit about that experience.
The first encounter in the system of integration was at West Wingo Elementary, where we were told by our parents to don't get in any trouble, don't cause no problems, just ignore people. And you can only ignore so much. So we had to deal with being called the N-word from day one and being told it was our fault that we were the ends, and we was like, that's funny. You know, we used to always talk about changes because there were a lot of things changing that was out of our control and we had no control over. But as those changes were taking place, it was always to us, and we always felt like we had to make the adjustments. Nobody else never did. It always was, we were the ones that had to make the adjustment to fit into a society that we were brought into. And when we didn't acquiesce, do like what they thought we should have done, then it was our fault. It was never, they would never take responsibility for their part. They would always find ways to say, you know, it's like that because you this. And I can remember in the community where I grew up at, I never heard any of that. I always heard the elderly people encouraging us to step out there and accomplish what's set before you, because you're only going to get so many opportunities. And being black in America, you had to understand what that means. Because even today, there's still, and I say this with a grain of salt, there's still not an equal amount of opportunity. Not that the opportunity is not there. It's just not equal. You can't tell me that if I select 25 people, I got to take 13 whites and 12 blacks to make up the group. They always in the position of the majority. I ain't angry or mad with them about that. I'm saying if it's equal, I'm good. And now if it's not equal, then I got a problem. And I think that's what's wrong with our society, is understanding how the equations work. Because every time we learn the rules, they change them. Every time we learn the game, it changes. And I don't think that's, I'm not going to say fair, because fair is you actually giving me what I deserve. I really, really want to seek justice. That's, and justice is a word that's in God's vocabulary. In the way he said, we miss it. The just shall live by faith. And so what happens is, if you're not going to be just with me, then the chances of me ever accomplishing what I know I can, I'm not if I got to go through you to do that. And so what we did, we started finding ways to go around. You don't have to build a wall to climb over. You could always go around, and finding ways to do that. And when you do, you got to be able and be willing to share with everybody else. And that was always one of my things growing up in West Rico, and getting to a position where I could move out, where I learned how to fill out an application. So now I could go back to West Rico and help 4, 5, 6 people who can't fill out an application, or who don't even know how to, you know what I'm saying? So I was able to help my friends, my buddies, you know, and guys who needed help. We would find out where they were hiring at, and all of us would go. And everybody who didn't get hired, we would always tell them, look, go next door. You know, always don't stop, keep looking till you find your spot. Mm-hmm. So it was rough, but we did good.
Tell me about another, I know, traumatic incident was losing siblings. I know specifically.
My brother Larry died when he was 18. The hardest, probably one of the hardest things I ever had to. Well, it's funny because I never had to sit down and talk with anybody about this, about that, you know, I mean, other than my wife, but to really just sit down and say things like, man, it's been that long ago. And as I sat here looking at you, I just look at the reflection in your face, man, and it's hard because my brother, it's funny how my son looks like my brother. And a lot of times I tell your mama all the time, she like, they favor that much. I say, babe. She said, I know. She said, I know. She said, I knew your brother. She said, I know. She said, I look at Jason and I see you. Yeah, you can see him. And I'm like, I talk with God about stuff like that, you know, and God was like, look, I know what you need before you need it. And I always looked at you and I was always like, wow, if you could give him back, you know? And God said, I can do you one better than that. I could give you a son that looks just like him. So that in itself was hard for me, but not only me, for my friends, his friends.
That was your best friend.
Huh?
That was your best friend.
And that was my best friend. Yeah, and it was rough. It was rough, but it taught me how to deal with debt. And And the more I think about it, sometimes I now understand the importance of having that 18-year time frame with him. And as I look back, and then I look back over the stuff he and I did together, and the crazy, some of the crazy stuff, that when I look now, I bust out laughing, and I'm like, if I hadn't had that experience with him, it's like he's always right there. I can still see that smile, I can still see that face, and it's like I could hear him talking to me, telling me, you did good, dog. Look at you, boy, look at you. And I'm like, man, if you could just be here. And he like, no, you there. You catch it all for me. You gonna cover it all for me. You there. And I look at that and I think, a lot of times, man, how I wish I could just hug him, take the time out to love someone, just hug him, But those are hard days, and I really, really understand now how God can send someone in your life to rescue you, because you're going down the wrong street, and I was going the wrong way till I met your mother.
And your baby sister.
My baby sister had been ill since she was 2 years old. She had a stroke, and it left her partially paralyzed on the left side of her body. And she was a joy. Funny, she was funny as all get out. I was thinking about something she did the other day. I was watching Mina and Jordan in the front, and my baby sister just kept coming across my head, and I was just like, "What's going on?" I started watching Mina and Jordan as to what they were doing. Jordan was trying to pick Mina up, and I kept trying to tell Jordan, she weighs 40 pounds. You weigh 50 pounds. Mm-hmm. You can't pick her up. And it made me think about my baby sister Geraldine, because she always wanted to try and pick something up, but she could only use one side of her body. Mm-hmm. So she always wanted to help you. I was carrying a box, and she said, let me get that, let me grab that for you. And when she came to grab the box, she put her one good hand under the bottom of that box, and she was gone. And I started laughing because I was like, the other arm never even acted like it was trying to grab the box. And I was like, where's she going? And she carried it all the way to the room and sat it on the bed. And when she turned around, she told me, she said, see, I told you I could do that. And that taught me that even though she was paralyzed, her ability to accomplish something, once she determined in her mind that she could do it, she did it, and she showed me that, and that motivated me to never ever think I can't do so. And it was times like that and incidents like that, with her that kept me focused, because she would have epileptic seizures, and we would have to hold her down till she come out of it. And I can remember those times while we were doing that. I would just be asking Jesus, who I didn't know at the time, to help her. And I guess, and when I got saved, it was funny because all those times I had asked God to do stuff, he started showing me stuff, and I'm like, wow, how you do that?
How do you think losing them affected you as a person, as a sibling, as a father?
As a person, we all deal with that differently. We all do. People can say what they want. We all deal with it different. I think the thing that it showed me was you could be here in the morning and be gone in the evening. Because if you would have dialed me up and told me the time I knock off from work and get to Oswego that my brother would be dead, I'd call you a lie. But God showed me better. By the time I knocked off from work and got from Harvey to Oswego, he was dead. And I had to accept that. I didn't understand how someone so young could be gone so quick. Never been in the hospital a day in his life. Never came out. So you know, it shaped us and molded us to understand at any given moment you could check out. And I think the thing that it prepared me for more than anything was preparing me to be able to deal with the death of my parents, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and all of the people that I come to know who passed, how to deal with it. Some different than others. But there's no easy way to deal with that. The experience that I have from it is I want to be able to use what I know to prepare my children for my death, for the death of their mother, for the death of their siblings. Because none of us it's not guaranteed, but the thing is you can be prepared for it. And it's something that you don't never prepare for, but it's coming. And I'm just being honest. You know, live long enough, it's coming. And the thing is how you deal with it when it get here. Because everybody gets a turn. And that's the amazing thing. Everybody gets a turn. Some get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turns in the book till you get it right.
Let's move on and talk about meeting your wife, meeting my mom.
I was in welding school.
Before we go, what year did you meet?
I met her in 76.
Okay.
I met her in February of 76. Coming from welding school, she was visiting by a friend down the street from my mom's home, and my friend, her friend, my friend, threw a volleyball at me, and I happened to catch the volleyball and put it in my welding bucket and was walking off to the house with it. So, and this young lady, Janelle, came and retrieved the ball. So she said, "Give me my ball." I said, "What you mean your ball? It's not your ball. This ball's in my bucket. The ball belongs to me." She said, "Okay." She said, "Then you can have the ball." I said, "No, I don't want to have it." I said, "If you want it, you can have it." She said, "Well, yeah, I would like to have it because we was playing with it." I said, "Well, it didn't look like I was playing with it to me. Your friend was throwing it at me." I said, "She threw it at me and then you came to retrieve it." I said, "You know, what's up with that?" And she was like, "There's anything up with it, but I like to have the ball." So I gave her the ball, and so I proceeded to walk on to my home. Got in the house, and I get inside. There's a group of guys in the house, that friends that I know, and were asking me all kind of questions about the young lady out in the street. You know, "Man, you seen her? Whoa, man, did you see her?" And I was like, what are y'all ranting and raving about? "Is it, man, did you see that fine young lady?" I was like, the young lady down the street by Ravenel? I said, "Oh, man, she all right. She okay. You know, she all right." All the while, you know, I'm thinking in my head, "Man, I got to meet this young lady. I got to talk to her. You know, well, there's a party Saturday, so I'll make my move. You know, I'll get around to it." But at the initial contact with her was just friends out in the street. That Saturday evening at the party, I got an opportunity to talk with her, and we began to talk. And I started asking her questions like, was she interested in anybody in this area, or was she, you know, where she was from, and, you know, I got her name and all of that good stuff. And so we began to talk just in general. general stuff. She was explaining to me that she knew my brother who had passed away. And so we talked about that, and so I asked her, was she at the funeral? She said yes. I said, oh, so you was the young lady that was here with Robin and Kim. She said, yeah. I said, oh, okay. And so we started from there, and from one thing led to another. So we started talking. I actually asked her if it would be okay if I gave her my phone number, so she can actually ask her parents if she had permission that she could call me. And she was like, why I gotta ask my parents permission? I said, because that's the right thing to do. I said, I don't want to be talking to you, and your parents don't want me talking to you.
Let's explain the age gap here. While we're here, like,
what's with the age gap thing? You all seem to make this age gap thing seem like it's a problem.
Explain
it's
the
not.
age gap.
Yeah, at the time I was 20 years old, and she was 15, turning 16. So, no, she had just turned 16.
She hadn't turned 16.
February. Her birthday was in January.
Yeah.
She was 16. But it was the following year. She was 15, she was 16 the following year. But the age gap thing is, in the area of West Wego where I live, we would have house parties. And you didn't have no age limit on house parties, because all us went. From everybody from 20 down, we went to house parties. We wasn't doing the street thing. We wasn't going to bars and stuff like that. We was still house partying. That was all over the West Bank. You could go to a house party in any little local area of Jefferson Parish, and you can always find there was a house party. So we all knew each other. So everybody was in school. So it was like, that's what we did. I could actually recall calling her parents, talking to her dad and her mom. Talked to her dad on the phone first, then her mom, then asking for permission to meet them rather than to take their daughter out somewhere to a movie or something, and they not know me. So I asked to meet with her parents. At first she was kind of like, you don't need to meet with them. And I was like, yes, I do. And it's a serious reason why I need to meet with them. And so as I began to talk to her dad and her mom and explain the situation to them, my age and everything, and they all knew, they were cool with that because they knew her. And they knew that this was not no situation where somebody's trying to take advantage of their daughter. I thought enough to myself and was raised and trained by my brother and my mom to always ask and seek permission to talk to another man's daughter or anything like that. That's how we grew up. That's how we were raised in that time. This wasn't just me. This was everybody in my age group that knew. We knew that this was what we did. This is how it was. You just didn't break off into no situation with nobody. You needed permission for everything. You had to talk to somebody's parents before you can actually. So I did that. The thing with that was her dad was, I don't think he was skeptical or anything. He was just like, okay. Her mom, on the other hand, was like, what are your intentions with my little girl? And I'm like, what you mean by intentions? I ain't got no intention. I don't know what intentions mean. I'm going to look it up, though, but I ain't got none. She said, well, if you ain't got no intentions, then what are you doing around here? And that in itself threw me, because if I don't have no intentions, what I'm doing, what are you saying? She's saying, if you ain't got no intentions with my little girl, why would I let you talk to her? You got to have some kind of attention. What's your intentions? Well, my intentions is to date her and be her friend and eventually one day get married. Mom said, okay, that's cool with me. So, and she and I began dating. I had permission to call the house. I had permission to even come to the house. So I remember the first time I drove over to pick her up to go out on a date, her mom, her dad, and one of her aunts on her dad's side was there. And she told me, she said, I pulled up in front of the house, and she came out the house and she came to the car, opened the door, and got in. I got out of the car and went to the door. And she said, "What are you doing?" So I'm going to talk to your mom and daddy. Let them know what time I need to know what time I need to have you back home. She said, "Don't go in there. Don't go in there. One of my aunts is now. She mean." And so I was like, okay. So I went, talked to her dad, to find out what time I need to bring her back home, stuff like that. We're going to the movies, and then we'll be back here. He said, okay, sure. She said 11 o'clock for you. Okay, fine. So me and her, I got in the car. Your mom was, I don't know if she was angry or mad, but she was like, "Why'd you do that?" And I explained to her why I did it. And there's a thing called respect that I was taught, especially with men. If you're gonna approach a man's house, you have to respect his house. You don't just break up in there like you're crazy. You don't own nothing in there. You don't know, this man might kill you. You know what I'm saying? So you had to have character to understand how to approach people and do things. Mm-hmm. So she and I got permission from her parents, and we were able to talk on the phone and stuff like this. Now, her aunts, Aunt Jude,
yes, I'll tell you. Talking about meeting the Brown family,
and all of them. Well, I met Janelle February '76, and I think I didn't meet her family, everybody, all at one time, till around Christmas time. We were going by her grandparents' house for Christmas.
2120 Lost Street.
2120 Lost Street. I can remember the first time I went there. It was Christmas Day. Me and my oldest brother. We were going to meet the Brown family. Well, I already knew Kevin and Janelle and Eric and Brian and Wayne. Who else? That's it. That was it. I already knew them because we'd already met outside, going places, doing stuff. But to go to 2120 Lost Street was the jewel of all things to me. Mm-hmm. You a lot of times people could say you can go somewhere and be there and miss everything there. Mm-hmm. But when I went to 2120 Lost Street, I didn't miss nothing. Everything that was there, everything that was solid, good, wholesome, it was there. It actually felt like home, like the best home you probably could ever be in, is to have that opportunity to be in that home on that day, sitting at that table with these people, the Browns, who I think, as far as family goes, it's just something about them. And this is not something that just happened. This is by design. A lot of people may never know who Moses Brown is. But Moses Brown know who Moses Brown is.
Great.
And Moses Brown was next to Jesus. Moses Brown may have been the greatest man I ever met. Because his character and his demeanor never changed. Same today, yesterday, forevermore. Changing it. Probably the smartest man I ever met. Moses Brown. His wife, I met early on in a relationship with Janelle. The grandmother was sweetest. She was the sweetest old lady I ever met. Her love for you, from wherever you was from, didn't matter. You came in her house, you was at her mercy. Sat down, you want something to eat. She's not asking you, do you want to eat? She's telling you, oh, you want something to eat. So sit down, wash your hands, and sit down, and we gonna eat. And it's funny because This was all the time. This wasn't like no special occasion, you know. You showed up there. You walk in the house. Good evening. How everybody doing? Y'all doing fine? Oh, we all doing fine. Good, man. You want to eat? I'm like, I ain't got to go to no restaurant. I ain't got to go buy no food. I just got to come to 2120 Little Street. They got food for everybody. But that joy of who these people were, and I'm gonna say still is, because everything that they taught me, I still use today. It's amazing how the stuff Mr. Brown poured into me. Just kind of like just being there, showing up on Sunday evenings, just so I could have a time to sit down and talk with Papa. You know, now, he wasn't my grandfather, but I took all of the grandfather privileges that came. Yes, I did. It's funny because when I think about his grandsons and I look at them most of the time, I laugh because I see so much of Mr. Brown in all of them. It's like you just can't believe somebody just took and drew him in all of them. You know, not just him, but the grandmother too, and all the children, and then all the grandchildren. I mean, I learned stuff from Mr. Brown through his son Stanley, who by the way was one of the greatest. Uncle Stanley was one of the greatest men that I ever met of reason. Here's a man who would reason with you and tell you whether you right or whether you wrong, but he'll never tell you what to do. Or he'll tell you if you right, he'll tell you if you wrong, but he'll never tell you what to do. I watched this man, George Stanley Brown, was in his 70s, asking his father for advice.
He was younger than that.
He was younger than that?
Yeah, younger than that.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
You wasn't here, you don't know.
He was younger than that.
He was younger than that?
He was younger than that.
No, I'm talking about he was a married man with children, grown boys in college. And he was asking his father for advice. And I was like, who do that? Of course, I couldn't do it because my dad wasn't there, so I don't know. But I saw that, and I thought to myself, oh, how nice it would be for my boys when I'm old to come to me and say, Dad, I got a little proposition I want to throw at you. Look, I need a little advice. I probably would lose it, you know, because I don't think I'm worthy of that, you know. Just knowing that and watching that with him and his son, how I wish that the day would come to, and I pretty much think God has a way of doing stuff like that. Y'all are magnificent, really. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I got a good crew. I ain't gonna lie. I got a good crew. God had Mr. Brown there for me, you know, and I often ask God, you know, who am I going to be here for, you know, and God said, well, we'll wait and see because you ain't finished living. And I'm like, okay, you know, but one of the things I've always been taught, you know, from Mr. Brown, from Uncle Stanley, from Uncle Lloyd, you know, these are the elderly men in my life that I knew would not tell me the truth about anything. I'm looking at men who was championing my cause because I married a young lady and I'm working on a job and we bought a house and they were encouraging us all along the way, you know, and it wasn't just one of them, but it was all of them. You know, letting you know, look, you could do it. You can make it. Now,
I know the role the men. I know the role the men played.
Mm-hmm. Now,
so
I'm
the role the women played.
I'm getting ready to get to the women. And June, and Shirley, Nanny, Boo, and Mama. Nanny, Aunt Shirley, Boo, Mama, and Jew. Aunt Jew was always out of town. So, Aunt Shirley, Boo, Nanny, and Mama. The brown women, as we call it, brown women. But Aunt Shirley became a brown woman by marriage. All of the women, the girls, the brown girls, had this two-tiered thing going on, like mama, like daddy, like mama, like, and all you can see that in all of them, like mama, like daddy, like mama, like daddy, like mama, like daddy, and they not only look like their parents, but their parents had instilled so much in them too. What being around one of them was like being around the other one too, because you know it was kind of like I always found myself when I was around Uncle Stanley, I kept trying to tell myself, that's Uncle Stanley, that's not Papa. That's Uncle Stanley, that's not Papa. Because you could never see the difference. You know, and then everybody else wasn't looking. I was looking to see what made them different, you know, because that's the way it was with them. The women were like, Boo was I'm not going to call her the queen, but Boo was the Boo. You know, Boo was like everybody hugged. You know, if you got around her and you've been around her any amount of time, she was gonna be honest with you about everything. You know, and that's just who she was. Nanny was gentle and sweet. Nanny was the one that was gonna make sure you understood that when you sat down to eat, you know, there's a certain aura that should come from you. You just don't sit down like no animal. She ain't say it, but you know, you had to have proper deals, you know, dealing with her. And so that's who she was. She was a teacher. So every chance she got, she taught, you know, and it wasn't just in school. You know, if she saw something and she saw where she could help, she'll help. She'll teach. Because that's who she was. Mama was the lawyer, doctor, Indian chief. Roro. Yeah. Roro was doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. My partner, my buddy, my ex-boom coon. You get mad all you want. That's my girl, me, her type. Mama. A lady who will cuss you out with the same mouth and then love you. Would meet your needs, whatever they were. If it was in her power to do it, she did it. She'd love you with hard love sometimes. Sometimes it wouldn't hurt her to look at you and just call you stupid. I mean, if it was something, you did something dumb, something stupid, one thing I liked about her, she would tell you that was dumb. I mean, you can't get past that. So that's who she was, but she was more than that. She was like my mother, you know. She was the mama. You know, she didn't birth me, but she raised me. You know, and she raised me in a way that a lot of times people don't do what she did. You know, I can remember when Janelle was in school and I was working in New Orleans and I had trouble getting back on the West Bank at night because the ferry stopped running and the buses wasn't running and I couldn't get home. She told me, I could come stay here. She said, matter of fact, I'll pick you up from work on my way home from work and you just stay here and in the morning you get up and go home on the bus. I was like the best of both worlds, man. I could work in all these parishes. My mother-in-law said, she's not my mother-in-law yet, but I can go stay by her house. Yeah. And of course, all the while I was doing that, Janelle didn't know. This is during time when she and I was separated. And she was like, when she found out, she was like, how could you just go stay by my mom? How could you? I said, wait a minute, you know, me and your brother and your mama, that's our business. You decided you wanted to be free. We let you be free. Don't get mad with us. And she found out that I was still in contact with her parents. I was still going over by her mom's house, taking care of business. I mean, I was actually still going over there, cleaning on my stove and all that, getting all the perks in, you know, the honey-do list. And so all that stuff mounted up to a dowry. So that's how I got married. So, you gonna take a break or something?
And you have to end up, and we'll catch back up starting from there.
Okay. All right.
With that. All right.